Hi, and welcome to Chapter 10, Understanding Work Teams. So in this chapter, we are going to talk about teamwork. And after studying this chapter, you should be able to analyze the growing popularity of teams and organizations, understand why organizations are developing more and more diverse teams and team strategies, contrast groups and teams, contrast the 5 types of teams, identify the characteristics of effective teams, show how organizations can create team players, and decide when to use individuals instead of teams. So why are teams so popular? Well, basically, they're popular because you can achieve more in a team. So the increased competition from companies worldwide has forced companies to become more competitive. And one way to become more competitive and more efficient is to develop teams and teamwork. So teams can come together to better utilize individual employee talents collectively. They're more flexible and responsive to change. And they also serve to possibly motivate people. So over the last decade, we have seen the use of teams grow exponentially in organizations. There are a number of reasons why this is true. Teams can enhance the use of employee talents and tend to be more flexible and responsive to change. Teams can help to keep employees engaged in their work and increase their participation in decision making, and thus increasing their motivation and job satisfaction. However, teams are not always effective, so it is important to take a look at how to deploy teams and when to best use them. Groups and teams are not the same thing. A group is primarily there to share information and make decisions. No real joint effort is required. A teamwork, however, a team is more coordinated in effort to achieve a particular goal. So a group is just any group of people who are working in a company that are all working for the same goal, maximizing shareholders' wealth. However, they're not working closely together like a team would. Okay, so that's an important thing to know. So there are a lot of work groups, departments, and organizations that can be considered a group, but a team has to be something that is people working together in a coordinated effort with one another, where each person's work is directly linked or tied to someone else's effort. Okay. So groups or work groups and work teams differ in their goals, level of synergy, accountability, and skills. Their function is different. So work groups share information while work teams work together for more collective performance. The synergy in groups is neutral, whereas teams have more of a positive synergy. So synergy is really that adage, 1 + 1 = 3. So the synergy in a team means that the team can produce more results than groups of people working individually. So accountability can be individual for both groups or teams, but is more often mutual in teams. The skill in a group can be varied, wherever the skills in a team need to be complementary, meaning that the skills are together. The combination of skills of the people on the team help to create something more powerful, more effective at work. So here in this diagram we have, work groups are just people who may share information, work for the same company, neutral, individual, working in their own offices, working on their own tasks, and it's kind of random and varied. Where work teams are more collective, and this is the connectivity. So it's more collective performance. It's a more positive experience where people are working directly on the same type of work, often the same projects and assignments. So, and their skills are more complementary to each other. Okay. Now, there are 4 different types of teams. There's a team specifically put together to solve a problem. There are self-managed teams where the teams themselves don't have a supervisor or a direct boss. They manage themselves in producing their returns. There are cross-functional teams, which are teams of people that are pulled from multiple places within the company's hierarchy. And there are virtual teams that work online or in an alternate workspace. Okay, so problem-solving teams. Members can often be from the same department or the same group. So they share ideas and suggestions for improvement, but they're rarely given the authority to implement their suggestions. They're sort of a brainstorming team. So they come together to pose potential solutions to problems, which they'll probably present to top management to decide what to do. Now, the self-managing teams, this could be teams, a little bit bigger teams, maybe 10 to 15 employees, and they're comprised of groups of people who perform highly related and interdependent jobs and take on the responsibilities of their former supervisors. So the effectiveness of this type of group greatly depends on the situation and the goals of the group. So, the team itself is sort of eliminating the supervisory role of a manager, and they are doing their own work planning and scheduling, their own task assignments, their operating decisions, actions, working with the customers. Now, this can be a very difficult team to put together and work effectively, because some teams do better when you have a leader or supervisor motivating, directing them. So a self-managed team would really have to be a group of highly coordinated, efficient team members, people who are good at working in teams. If you're not good at working in a team, you're probably not good at being a part of a self-managed team. It's one of the most difficult teams to set up and establish, but it can be one of the most cost-effective and efficient teams once it's going and working well. Cross-functional teams are gather workers from many different work areas that come together to accomplish a task that needs to utilize multiple perspectives. So this type of group is good at developing new ideas and solving problems or coordinating complex projects across the company. Given that their tasks are normally complex and diverse, it takes some time for the groups to develop into a more effective and efficient, productive team. So the cross-functional teams solve problems that generally affect the whole company. So it's some sort of problem that you would need people from sales and marketing, finance and accounting and operations to be involved to help solve. So you get a very diverse group of individuals who have a diverse background and knowledge about all areas of the company. So that's what helps to solve problems that generally affect the entire company, by having pulled in experts from each area of different departments in the company. Okay, so virtual teams, this is going to be something that's going to be much more prevalent in the future, and you may have already been part of a virtual team, and you're basically just using technology like Skype, Adobe Connect, to connect teams across the world. So it can be difficult because when you're not meeting face-to-face, there can be less direct interaction, less social opportunities. But virtual teams are increasing in their use, so that's for sure. And this type of team uses computer technology to bring people together to achieve that common goal. Typically, these types of teams get to work with little socializing, but they need to overcome time and space constraints to accomplish their task. And one big problem could be time zones. So if you have multiple people in multiple time zones, it's hard to find a time that's convenient for everybody. So in order to be effective, virtual teams need to find ways to establish trust among the members and have close monitoring and results to be publicized. So dispersing information can be challenging in an online team. Research shows that virtual teams are better at sharing unique information, but they tend to share less information overall. It can also be challenging to find the best way to communicate. So low levels of virtual communication can mean high levels of information sharing, but high levels of virtual communication can hinder information sharing. So basically, low levels of virtual communication could be something like email, where you can share a lot of data, but very high levels of virtual communication like Skype may hinder some information sharing, mostly because of the time it takes to meet up and the limited time you have to talk in those, and some of the connectivity issues with something like Skype. Okay, multi-team systems. So research shows that multi-team systems perform better when they have boundary spanners whose job is to coordinate the members of the sub-teams. So the multi-team system can be the best choice when teams are too large to be effective, or when teams are with distinct functions need to be highly coordinated. So this is managing groups of teams. So collections of two or more teams that need to be coordinated. So And that's getting more and more true in the work world today, that there are managers dealing with multiple teams that they have to keep on track and keep coordinated. Okay, so creating effective teams, we have context, composition, and process. So for each of these, we're going to talk about each of these a little bit moving forward, but for each of these, for the context, adequate resources, basically these three components of effective teams have sub areas. So in context is adequate resources, leadership and structure, climate of trust, performance evaluations and rewards. On composition, abilities of members, personality, allocating roles, diversity, size of teams, member flexibility, member preferences. In process, common purpose, specific goals, team efficacy, conflict levels, and social loafing. So let's talk about these. These are all elements in making the team effective. Understanding the context is important for teams to be effective. The team needs the right resources to do the job well. Members also need effective leadership and structure to facilitate a process that will help the team succeed. It's important that teams fit together so they can successfully utilize the individual skills inside the group. So trust is also an important aspect of teams and essential for group cohesiveness. As we've seen previously, finally, the reward system needs to be adequate and based on team contributions. So these are some context factors in making a successful team. So you could see how a team is going to need adequate support and resources. Without that, it's really not going to be successful. Having effective leadership and structure is critical for the team to function. And the climate of trust is probably the most important element here, where team members trust each other and their leadership, that they have the tools to become successful, and that their team members are people they can trust, people they can open up to on a work level, and people that they can share their success with. And that ties into performance evaluations as far as how you perform in a team and the type of reward you would receive for being an effective team member or being a part of an effective team. And one of those generally are bonuses that are specifically tied to team membership. So team composition and success. So the ability of the members is definitely a key aspect. So a manager must pay close attention to how a team is put together to assure the group's cohesiveness and effectiveness. So each member should have been selected based on the type of skills and abilities needed to accomplish the task at hand. However, abilities are not the only characteristic that managers need to pay attention to. Personality is also important, that the team can bond and form trust together, and that the team has the personalities of the team work well together. Because fighting and people not getting along due to personalities is probably the biggest reasons teams fail. So in addition, a manager must be sure he assigns the right people to fill the roles as needed, but maintaining adequate diversity so the idea generation can still occur. So the manager must also pay attention to the size of the team to ensure that the members want to be on the team and enjoy the teamwork. Organizational diversity in attributes such as age can help predict better team formations. So let's just back up for a minute. So if you're going to have a successful team, the members should have technical expertise, problem-solving skills, interpersonal skills, the ability to get along with people, the personality of the team members. You have better team members with people who are very conscientious and thoughtful and open-minded. People who will readily listen to ideas, think about them, research them, and not just reject them just because they personally feel a certain way or reject them out of their ignorance. And the allocation of roles. So the roles that people play within the team need to be defined so they understand how and what they are going to contribute. And of course, the diversity of members helps to bring strengths to the team. You don't want all like-minded people on the team. You want people from different experiences, different backgrounds to help make a more well-rounded team that can make more well-rounded decisions. Okay. All right, so the team process and success. So you have potential group effectiveness plus process gains minus process losses equal actual group effectiveness. So team's output should be greater than the sum of their inputs. So this is just basically a graphical representation of the impact on the group's overall effectiveness. So whatever the team or group does, they're ultimately achieving for success, solutions, and effectiveness in their performance. So a team's process can have a big impact on its effectiveness. Teams must have a strong commitment to the common purpose that provides direction, but yet incorporate, reflectivity so that plans can be adjusted when necessary. The goals of the team must be set up so they're specific, measurable, and realistic, yet challenging in order to keep the team members engaged. Members must believe they can succeed and have the group have a mental map of how to get the work done to assist the process of accomplishing their task. And the members must navigate through conflict and social loafing to encourage a healthy and effective group. So for a team to be successful, there has to be a roadmap or a purpose for what this team is doing, specific goals to what they're looking to achieve. Now, team efficacy is basically believing the team, having faith and believing that the team put together can solve the task, that they can do it, that they have the skills, and they just need to roll up their sleeves and get it done. So it's really a confidence in the team. So teams with lower levels of conflict among team members are more effective because a lot of time and effort can be wasted in counterproductive personality conflicts. And one of the biggest gripes of any team, and you've been on student teams and you know this, where you have social loafing. So you get a team together maybe to do a simulation or to do a project, and one person kind of just sits back and through sheer laziness is very unreactive and waits for other team members to complete the project or do their work, and is really difficult to bring them in to get them to contribute. That's a difficult solution. How do you solve that? You don't want to be, seeming like you have the personality conflict when you complain about this person. So generally the best solution is for the team members to try to encourage the social loafer to stop being a loafer and participate and contribute to the team. And if that doesn't work, at a certain point the team members need to get together and talk to a superior and say, listen, this person isn't working out, they're not contributing, please find a better team or better fit for them, because it's really affecting our ability. And we really feel that we're not going to work hard if someone's just going to sit here and get all the credit for what we're doing and they're doing nothing. It's really demotivating to have a social loafer on your team. Okay, turning individuals into team players. Okay, so not all employees are team players. And specifically in the United States, it's a more individualistic culture that can create challenges for people to work in teams. That's why if you're a student in the United States, you're from the United States and you're currently a student, you hate teamwork because you want to do things by yourself. It's easier to work by yourself. It's a more individualistic society you grew up in, so teamwork does not come so naturally to you like it may for other societies. So in fact, it's not always possible to turn everyone into a team player. So when formulating teams, it's important to carefully select the right employees who are more tuned to teamwork. And managers should be careful to craft a reward system, encourage cooperation efforts rather than competitive efforts. So in addition, while managers need to recognize individual contributions to the team, they also need to discourage social loafing. So it's always easier to work by yourself because it's more effective, more efficient in deciding what to do and doing something. It may not be more successful as far as the results of your efforts and your solutions as a team, but most people prefer working alone because you don't have to deal with other people. And for a lot of people, it's a huge struggle to deal with other people. So for managers, you really have to select the right people who have the interpersonal skills and technical skills to succeed in the team. And then you have to train. people in the workforce need to be trained on their problem-solving skills, communication skills, negotiation, conflict management, these coaching skills, and skills of cooperating. So a lot of times employees need to be retrained. And then the rewards have to support the efforts of the team over individual ones when someone's involved in the team effort. So if the team, there's no reward for being part of the team or the team's successes, it's discouraging. Okay. Teams aren't always the answer. So we've looked at a number of ways to make teams effective and encourage good teamwork. However, teams are not always the answer. There are 3 questions to ask whether a team solution fits the situation. So number 1, is the work complex, and is there a need for different perspectives? Number 2, does the work create a common purpose or set of goals for the group that is larger than the aggregate goal of the individual? And 3, are members of the group involved in interdependent tasks? So if these questions can all be answered with a yes, then a team might be a solution. So you really have to think about the complexity of the work. Can a group do it? Can a team do it better than an individual person? The common person, does the common purpose, does the work create a common purpose or a set of goals that people in a team can more successfully achieve? And are the members of the team or the group interdependent? Meaning, does their work touch each other's work in a way that trying to solve the problem, you need all the pieces of the puzzle, not just the one piece that you complete? Okay. So implications for managers. There are a number of common characteristics of effective teams that can be the manager should keep in mind, such as the need for trust, smaller in size, a chance to contribute, significant tasks, and a team who believes in itself. So managers need to modify the environment to help teams succeed and pay closer attention, careful attention to the makeup of the team and the members to ensure success. So for managers, if you have successful teams, you'll get more done and you'll be a more successful manager. But you have to know how to create effective teams. There are common characteristics that make teams effective. And oftentimes, smaller teams work better than larger teams. You have to, as a manager, get your members of your teams to believe in themselves and believe in their capabilities and commitment to their purpose. So selecting the individuals who have the best interpersonal skills to be effective team players, team members, team leaders, and providing training and teamwork skills and reward for individuals for cooperative efforts will definitely help your teams become more effective as a manager. But keep in mind, if a team can properly select its members, it will be more effective. So this solution can be based on the ability, skill, and applicable the traits based on the situation. So if non-personnel conflicts can be fostered, it may lead to better team decisions. So basically we're saying here that sometimes in making a proper selection, teams should sometimes be allowed to have inputs on who their team members should be. And so even though the manager is going to most often puts a team together, it's important to allow team members to decide on who they want to work with in some cases. So sometimes it may make sense to let teams form themselves. And this way, if it's possible, if they feel they have ownership in the creation of the team, then they're more likely to work together and get along. I found this concept to be very effective for me, as when I teach classes with teamwork, when I used to just auto-assign people into teams and just randomly put people in teams, I found there was a lot of conflict and a lot of problems. So then allowing members, putting students in a group and saying, okay, I want you guys to self-select and form teams of 4, and giving the team the responsibility of picking their team members, or the people coming together in groups of teams, often reduce that stress among who they're working with and who they're getting stuck with, and greatly reduced my stress of having to deal with conflicts of team members who didn't get along. Okay, just for a quick summary for this chapter, in this chapter we analyzed the growth and popularity of teams and organizations. We contrasted groups versus teams, talked to you about the difference of the two, talked about the 5 different types of teams, identified the characteristics of effective teams, showed how organizations can create better team players, and decided when to use individuals rather than teams. So, and that's a really important thing to think about. There are certain problems that individuals can solve better. So part of being an effective manager, of course, is knowing when to deploy a team and when not to deploy a team. Because sometimes people can have team burnout. If they're on too many teams simultaneously, that can be a very stressful environment for people. So sometimes it's best when problems can be solved on an individual basis, not to form a team, because that's just counterproductive and wasteful. Okay, that's it for this chapter. I will see you soon for the next chapter. Take care.